Howcee Internet Radio. We're expecting some calls this morning.
Okay, Fred, I'm ready.
Okay, I'm live in the studio. We are live right now. National Association of Black Defenders Autism guest call in. I'm your host, Freddie C. Howard, with Dr. Michael McCorvey Sr. Our guests today will be Danielle Roberts and Steve Roberts, and they will be talking about also part of the team will be education specialist Ms. Tammy, and she will be talking as well. You got the floor, Dr. McCarvey. Go ahead. Hold on. Let me turn on the recorder. Oh, it's already on. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We're glad to have you with us. This is the National Association of Black Defenders, where your problems become our problems because we believe justice. We're so grateful to have Mr. Freddie Howard, our public relations director, also the producer of Howcee Gospel for this morning. We just thank God to have him a part of this show this morning. We're glad to have our guests with us. Good morning, Danielle and Steve. How you guys doing this morning?
I don't hear him.
I don't either. Steve, Danielle? Hello? Investigator Steve. Investigator Danielle? Are y'all there? You call them on your end? Freddie?
Huh?
Did you call them on your end?
No,
Did they call in?
Okay, well, see, the only thing is there's only one line in, and that's your line.
Okay, hold on a minute. Hold on.
Stand by.
All right. Radio Land, we're back with you now. This is Dr. McCorvey with the National Association of Black Defenders. We have on board with us this morning Investigator Danielle Roberts and Steve Roberts. We'll be talking about a subject matter that's very touching to the heart, not only to them, but to the rest of America right now, and that's autism and how it affects not only the child, but making sure that the proper legal care and the proper parental care is given to these individuals, as well as school. You know, so important nowadays that we have all of these tie-ins when it comes to this subject matter this morning. Again, we want to thank you for tuning in. We want to thank Howcee Gospel Radio for having us be a part of this program this morning. We're so glad to have Miss Investigator Danielle on the radio with us this morning. And Miss Danielle, just kind of introduce yourself to, she's also a part of NAB. Introduce yourself to to the radio land this morning. And also tell a little about your situation and how through this broadcast, hopefully so many can be helped. So many problems can be solved through this broadcast this morning. We have hundreds of thousands of listeners, and we just want you to go ahead and kind of just open up for us this morning and tell who you are and what's going on with your child. And
Danielle Roberts. I'm a board certified criminal defense investigator, certified forensic science investigator, and certified forensic interviewer here in the state of Florida. I'm a licensed professional investigator. I've got over 15 years of professional investigative experience, ranging from financial, insurance fraud investigation to murder cases. Like I said, I'm board certified in criminal defense. I specialize in autism response and defense, disability defense, police procedure, federal trial preparation, litigation support, civil litigation, case preparations, divorce, child custody, surveillance, stalking, death. I actually just got certified in forced investigations. I'm also a mitigation investigator. I deal with a lot of homicides, as well as capital murder as well. So I've been doing investigations for a long time. I have comprehensive skills in forensic interviewing and forensic photography, crime scene examination, blood spatter detection, recognition and analysis, and preparing and presenting accurate facts, to attorneys and before going forward to, case and trial. So, like I said, I've been doing this a long time. A little bit about autism defense. We typically get quite a bit of cases that involve adults on the spectrum. Autism itself is a neurodevelopment disorder. It affects on how a person perceives and interacts with the world. It's characterized by a range of challenges in social skills and communication and repetitive behaviors. It's a spectrum disorder. It's not consistent with one behavior. And that means that it basically is it varies widely in its presentation and severity from person to person. Some individuals with autism may have significant difficulties in communication and social interactions, while others may have exceptional abilities in specific areas like music, art, and mathematics, which a lot of people have heard that, typically a lot of your people on the autism spectrum, they're very intelligent. They're amazing people. Going a little bit personal, I have 3 children in my home who are autistic. And then I have a 4th child who is not. So I live the autism world daily, and they're all different. I have 2 girls that are on the spectrum and 1 boy on the spectrum. And my son is a little bit more severe than my girl. All range of behaviors, and not necessarily, we don't call them bad behaviors because they're not, but they're just behaviors, the way that they associate in social situations, communications, like repetitive behaviors, and sensory sensitivities and those types of things. Now, kind of digging into autism itself, I can say that the amount of casework that's going to be flowing in the future is going to be significant, because it's been proven that people on the spectrum become victim to crime and types of things. So we have with those on the spectrum. My course hasn't been released yet. We're in the process of finishing that up, but it'll be available to attorneys and investigators so they know how to properly work with somebody who's spectrum if they come into the judicial system. But me personally, kind of go into a little bit of a case that is dear to my heart because it involves my child. My oldest son is in a school that is specifically designed for children who are on the spectrum. They don't have any other, they do have other comorbidities, but they don't actually have other children who are not on the spectrum. So the school is an autism school. It's a charter school out of Martin County. And my son has been a student there since September of 2022. After years of trying to find a school that would fit his needs, we came across this school, and they were able to help us out, and was accepted, and we moved him to 4th grade, and he's been doing great. All the data that I have received from school is that he is thriving and he's doing well. I've never really had any bad reports. Obviously obviously he is autistic, so good days and bad days, but they have always had a positive spin on those days. And even though he had a little bit of a rough day, these were the positive notes that were in that day. So I appreciate that. But there was one day, May 9th, I'm sorry, of year, where my son, his teacher had stepped out, was not in the classroom, so she left the paras, with two individuals who paraprofessionals are designed to assist the teacher in the classroom. Specifically when you have special needs children involved, they typically have a few in the classroom, one if not two. In the public school system, you'll typically one that they said that they were going to go ahead and pursue further investigation, in which they did. They talked to everybody who was involved, and went a phone call from the DCF investigator, forwarded their case to the state's attorney's office. I tried contacting the state's attorney's office many times, and they said they never received it. They said that doesn't mean they didn't send it in, but they said that they never received it, and that's typically not the way the process should work. They should have sent it to the sheriff's department, which the sheriff's department did get involved, but the state's attorney obviously did not receive it, even though he had confirmation emailed it was sent to the state's attorney's office. And so Martin County, like I said, they started their investigation, and all in the midst of this, I had to take my son to the hospital because he was still complaining of neck pain, headache, and his knee was really swollen. The bruising on the knee lasted, I think, around 2.5 weeks. And they thought, at first I got an inconclusive test back saying that it was broken. But then they came back with a CT scan to rule out any breaks, but they said it was a really deep knee contusion, and that's what they ruled it out as. They said that everything in his neck at that point was muscular, and that he would just need time to heal on the neck. And so Martin County Sheriff's Department got involved, and they contacted me. And so the investigator, the detective, informed me that she could not move forward with with criminal charges. And so me questioning why, because from everybody else's standpoint, they said that it needed to be criminally pursued, that the school believed it needed to go to DCF. DCF believed that it needed to go criminally, and be investigated, but it stopped at Martin County. And said that the other autistic child was not credible because he was autistic. And even though he said that he admitted it in the school's incident investigation, that he saw what happened. And then from my understanding, they did not get CPT involved, help a child protective team to help with the investigation on that end for interviewing a child. I was not informed that. And then also the state's attorney actually told me that I need to find out if CPT was involved, because that was a big red flag for her as a state attorney. And then they also said have the standing on top of a desk during the time that this happened. And so when you investigate a case, specifically those with autism, you should know that they come typically with data from a school system, or they come with all types of therapies. So there's data that typically comes with a child that's on the spectrum. And so my son has two 5-inch binders full of data that come with him of behavior therapy, data reports, behaviors, IEPs that note behaviors, all these types of things. And you can see that being under a desk or on top of a desk actually fall into his behaviors. So it is a normal behavior for him to possibly get under a desk or lay on top of one. It is just one of his behaviors. But they used that to say that, well, he was on top of a desk. So we cannot prove that he did not fall off of a desk. Well, nobody ever said that he fell off a desk. That's not stated in any investigation. She actually said that he tripped and fell, while the other student said that she heard him say, "Get off of me," and she saw him on top of my son. And so their investigation did not line up with the initial investigation, where the child felt most comfortable with the original interviewer, which is where he goes, where he would feel more comfortable. Same thing with my son. His story had not changed the entire time. He was investigated by the first time. He was investigated by DCF. Another time he did a forensic interview, and he did another interview with the school. So he had been through 4 different interviews, and his stories were consistent. But because they said that this child being autistic was not credible, and them showing my son on a desk, but like I said, we have proven data to support that behavior. The problem is my son's IEP was violated because he was not given the opportunity to take his break during the time he was in school, and he was injured in the midst of that violation. And that's where I'm at today, is to pursue criminal charges. This woman should not be working with the school. DCF has not closed their case. Brought her back. So they said, oh, well, they're not pursuing criminal charges, so we're bringing her back. Even though they were the initial DCF to come in and investigate this entire thing. Well, then they allowed her back. So I got a phone call from them because one of the local news stations reached out to them. So they called me and they said, we just got a phone call from a local news station. And I said, I believe it. I believe it at this point, because when I did a post on a social media page, and it went completely viral here locally, which we consider that, viral here, which is fine, because there's a lot that the county sheriff's department does not pursue. And this being a case of having all these investigations brought forth, no criminal charges being pursued against against the person who hurt my son, is not okay. It's not okay. I believe that he was extremely consistent with everything that happened, and in the midst of it, he just gets thrown to the wayside. Again, this is what happens with people who are on the spectrum. They do not believe, most people who interview them don't believe they're credible. They have a voice, and it's not okay, because my son is articulable and he can make anything happen just as much as anybody else, and he deserves the dignity that any other person who had been abused should receive. I mean, in reality, if we're dealing with the domestic situation and there's witnesses, and one person comes out and they have injuries on their body, what happens? Somebody gets arrested. And then unfortunately, they have to prove their innocence. And being a defense investigator, I understand that, because I work with people every day who are trying to prove their innocence. I understand that. But when you have hard, factual, proven evidence and nothing is being done about it, then there's an issue. And this is where I'm at. My son, he deserves more than what was given to him. So my spiel, I guess. I hate to take everybody's time, but
no. Yeah, this is good.
This is where we're at. I requested DCF today. I would like a different agency to investigate it at this point. I believe that I want to move forward with the state's attorney, just looking at it, without having the sheriff's department involved, because the sheriff's department, I don't believe they did their job in this. I don't. It's being a evidence, what happened, having consistent reporting, and then having a child who saw it and then nothing be done about it. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, I'm listening, and I'm thinking about from the credibility of you as an investigator who knows about these things. So perhaps they were very much afraid of the authority that you represented, and that you were able to decipher what's bull and what's real, and so forth, their case. So from my perspective as a radio host and as a person, a parent myself, I would continue to pursue.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, because Brother Freddie, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing is that they have gone wrong in so many instances in this case from day one until to not continue her pursuit for justice in this case would be, just irradical, and I understand her stance for her son in this situation because it's a very technical situation. At the same time, the school system and the law enforcement should have followed the direct protocol, which was not followed in this case as well. And I'm so glad that Tammy's with me this morning. She's going to go into detail on and ask Miss Danielle some questions about some things that should have taken place that didn't take place. Tammy has a master's in special education, and she's been working that field for 29 years. And she's going to just ask a few questions to Danielle as well, and as we move forward.
Good morning.
Morning.
I was just listening to what Investigator Danielle was talking about, and it's just ridiculous that you have to go through all of that, considering I've been teaching 29 years, and I've dealt with children on the autism spectrum a variety of years, and those children, you definitely have to understand their makeup. You have to understand how they operate. And I was listening to and one thing that I do love about those children that are autistic, they are very direct about things. Very seldom will they change. If they tell you that the sky is blue, it's going to be blue until they say it's not blue. But if whatever happened to your son in that classroom, that's ridiculous. It's obvious that they did not know how to follow his IEP, because I was wondering, did he have like any type of behavior issues at time? Because sometimes that comes with the territory, especially a new person, or sometimes it could be noises that stimulates them. Sometimes it could be a busy classroom environment, or it can be things on the walls. There could be a number of things that So with the child doing anything, my first thing was, okay, if he started acting out, what did his ID say that gives him his downtime? Because that was the first thing that I saw. If something triggered, first of all, what triggered it? Then after it was triggered, what did they do to give him his downtime?
Exactly. So when I originally spoke with him about it, there is a mix of kiddos in the classroom, which is, I think, great. But son is a sensory avoider. So he does not like loud input. He doesn't do those things because they're, when you're dealing with somebody on the spectrum, and you can relate with this, Tammy, because you see children all the time, is the way that he has explained it to me is anybody that goes above a certain decibel, basically, it is so painful that he can't function. He can't function. And so he is in a stage of elopement, and elopement, for anybody who doesn't know, is typically a child who will try to escape or try to wander, but typically they'll run from their specific situation. He didn't do that. He wasn't in an elopement stage, but there was a little classroom who started screaming. I'm not sure what it was for, but he needed something. And my son was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So he got up and he's like, I need a break. And they said the number one thing for him specifically that has worked and been consistent as far as de-escalating him is allowing him to go to the administration office, because they have a little couch in there and it's quiet and he can go and he can lay down or do whatever he needs to do. And then they bring him back, which is fine. It de-escalates him. He was not given that opportunity. He was not allowed to walk. He was not allowed to go to the safe space where he could at least go into the back of the classroom, which is still him in that environment with another screaming child. He wasn't even given that opportunity. Instead, he was forced to stop, and he was hurt in the midst of it.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he wasn't given any opportunity to de-escalate.
Oh wow. Well, they totally violated his IEP and the accommodations that come with that.
Yep.
If he needed a timeout, that was his legal right to leave, or for the parent to take him wherever he needed to go so that he could de-escalate and come back, and that's just a part of it. But I
Exactly.
was wondering, have you ever asked about the cameras? Because sometimes the exceptionality, the camera shows exactly what happened in there.
Yeah, no, they don't have cameras in this.
Are you serious?
Are
Oh
you
yeah, no,
sure?
of
Or is
course
that what
not.
they're
Of course
saying?
there's no camera. I
That's
mean,
a
that's
That
violation right
can,
there.
yes,
That's the court violation that we got to go after
yes.
right there.
If they don't
yeah.
have cameras, that is a violation.
Yes.
Well, in the state of Florida, I believe that there's something passed. I can't quote it though, where they don't actually have to have them in our state. And
Oh,
it's
really?
oh yes, and it's devastating. And I have reached out to legislation because that is the number one thing that is needed when you're dealing with special needs children is accountability.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
accountability, and I mean, there's so many injuries in our state, and they're not doing anything about it.
Wow.
They're getting injured.
Well, that's understandable. If there are no cameras in the school, then you understand why they would let her come back in the school. She could have never come in my class. I couldn't have taken
Okay.
that.
I got a
Um,
I got a question here for the team. All right. Compare the prices. Okay, where your child is being attended and where she's attending as autistic kid to a school where there is camera. Where are cameras? What's the difference in that? I know that's going to behoove a parent or whoever to have the cost to cover that cost. But what's the difference in the place that has cameras and the place that do not have cameras?
I believe it comes down to a point of accountability, 100%. Because when you know that you're being, unfortunately, it sounds bad, but when you know you're being watched, you're going to be appropriate. You're going to do the things that you need to do, and you're going to follow what you need to do appropriately. It's just, I think it's more of a mental mindset than anything. But also, if there's an incident where a child hurts a teacher, then there's proof that
right.
you know what I mean? That they're okay, yes, this child did hurt this teacher, or
Yeah.
this child did hurt another student, or this teacher did hurt this student, and there's proof evidence. But I believe it just gives more accountability. It gives them more of a safety feature than anything. But no, and I talked to the school after the event, and they said, "Well, this might be the reason we get cameras now." And I'm like, "Well, you should have probably already had them. You thought, this is something maybe you should have considered a long time ago when you started taking on, you know."
That probably
Most
So,
definitely.
there should be a law in regards to accountability for an institution that's going to be taking care of kids with autism that they do have
Yeah.
cameras. Otherwise, don't go into business. If you can't qualify and
exactly.
do what you're supposed to do, uh, don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, make sure
Right.
we are in the pursuit of what y'all legal as well as professional range for somebody that do take care of kids with autism. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. And the teacher and the parent or whoever, they have to be familiar with these children and understand how these children operate. They really have to take their time to establish a strong rapport with these kids, because you don't really never know sometimes what will cause them to trigger, but you have to be sensitive to it. And so when it comes to the camp, like I've been teaching 29 years and I've had children with autism, and yes, I've had these behaviors, and yes, I've got hit and all types of stuff. But the thing is, my teaching with my children was consistent, whether I had cameras or not. I had relationship with the children, but considering that I did have cameras, they were able to see me on a consistent basis. Even when my children with autism would act out, I knew what to do. I knew they was frustrated. I put myself in that child's shoe. Okay, I'm frustrated. What, I need somebody to help me. That's basically when they act out. It's their way of saying, "Help me."
Yeah.
Just help me. That's all I need you to do. Just help me. And so in Danielle's case, it's just ridiculous that this child IEP says that this child has a right to go to the principal's office or wherever as a form of de-escalating. They totally violated the accommodations That's what they violated. They violated the accommodations that was needed to even help the child to be successful, even though the child was having a moment. So if I were you, I would definitely just stick with this and bring them to get your justice for this.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, at this point, this case specifically is a violation of IEP that brought on a personal injury case, and it is a violation that falls under federal law because that is the ADA, and you know, at this point, I want to pursue justice. Now, this isn't the first time he's been hurt. You know, and I don't know if it's going to be the last because people like to put their hands on special needs children. I don't understand why. I don't understand it. These behavior plans work. And I know that specifically because I have outside behavior therapists outside of the school system, and we implement the behavior plans that we have specifically for him, and they work. Yeah. I have seen the decrease in behaviors in my own home because we have implemented everything they told us to do. So I'm talking 40 hours of behavior therapy a week, not including occupational therapy and speech therapy. My son's gone right now with behavior therapists. I mean, this is his life is surrounded by behavior therapy because we want him to be successful. Work who say that ABA doesn't work, but it does. If it is followed appropriately, it works. And it's a proven case that it works because we have went from an elopement case where he ran to a lake. I lost him at the lake. I couldn't catch up with him. And I had helicopters out searching for him. Okay. Running into the middle of highways is where we come from with my son, to no elopement at all. I mean, we have come far when it comes to his behaviors, you know, and most of it is just because they're runners. I mean, you just do what you got to do. You make it happen for your kid. But, you know, he even had the Project Lifesaver bans for a long time, and he recently just got him off because he doesn't elope anymore. You know, so if we can go from elopement almost daily to none within a few years, I mean, I know that it works. I know that it works because I've seen it, you know. And so if they were truly following his behavior plan in the school system, it would have worked, but they didn't. They violated his IEP.
If you had a qualified personnel, that would have helped tremendously.
Yeah, and
she didn't knew what to do. She didn't know how to. Yeah, she didn't know.
His teacher is going to be a BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analyst, or BCABA. You know, and I don't know the para's qualifications, but I was informed by the school that they go through CDI training. And they do refreshers every month. And the thing is if you actually truly implemented your CDI training, I believe that's what it is, CDI training, then you would have known that you don't put your elbow into a child's neck, specifically a child with autism, because they don't have the core strength that most children do. That is a common known physicality with a child on the spectrum, is they don't have core strength. They don't. A lot of them don't, you know, and you can't get on top of a child. That's how, you know, kids who have been arrested who are on the spectrum and stuff, some of them, you know, have died because of it, you know, because they're crushing their sternums because they don't have any core strength, you know, and they're consistently being injured. And I'm just seeing more and more of it. I mean, I could go on and on about the things that have, you know, went on over the years with my son, but, you know, this is the most prevalent. And at this point, you know, we got mental health involved, and mental health said that you know, it's turning into a PTSD diagnosis at this point for him, you know, being injured in this school. And it's just terrible. You know, when he found out that she went back, he got my, it's like, I saw her today because they told me that they weren't bringing her back. They told me, like, she's not, you know, she's here, she's not coming back. And then when I found out she was back, well, you know, she's in a different area, but then all of a sudden she disappeared again. So I don't know. Maybe they let her go completely. He said he hadn't since then. So but you know, I called and, really raised my voice with is you guys are supposed to be the only school around here that is really, dedicated to one, implementing IEPs, and two, working with children on the spectrum. And you failed my son. He was failed in the school system, and it's just terrible. It really is. I really think that, for one, Florida needs to hold more of our educators, specific special needs educators, accountable for the way that they're going about it, because I know many educators, I know many behavior therapists in the schools, and they'll tell you that they're not following their IEPs. They're not.
Yeah, because they're not qualified. That would be the first step. If you're going to come in a classroom, find out every student's operation method. How does this one, her or what, how she, whatever controls. You need to know that so that you can do the right things at the right time when the situation arrives. But if you haven't studied them a record, you can't do nothing. Now, if you come in and have a bad day, you finna automatically bad day every student in your class.
Yep.
Right. The number one thing with like CDI training too is, for one, mental health awareness. Okay. But for two, crisis de-escalation techniques. They are trained monthly on crisis de-escalation techniques. She didn't do that for him. I mean, you're only required to go through it, I think, once a year, if I'm not mistaken. It's the crisis intervention team training. I believe it's once a year to certify yourself. But this school went actually above and beyond and said, no, we're going to go through refreshers every month. And the administration even told me that they knew that other para was lying. She told me, she said, I looked her dead in the face and told her that I know you're lying to me, that you saw this. But she refused to admit it.
Okay.
And it's terrible. It really is terrible.
Dr. McCorvey, Ms. Tammy, you were to ask her some key questions in regards to violations that possibly triggered it. And you did indicate that how loud noises and stuff would trigger things, but you was going to ask some more questions in regards to the situation.
No, she basically answered some things that I was able to hear her say.
Okay then. All right. Thank you.
To bring out and want to say, well, two things really. One is this is where, to me, the school board failed a parent, and they failed in a big way, because you said it earlier, there's no accountability. There's no one to stand in awe of what happened with the facts. And she's left with an injured child. How long, we don't know how long this has been going on in the school system or in the state of Florida, wherever the case may be. But how long will we allow even a child with autism, with special needs, to be violated? That's the term I'm looking for. We cannot allow this to continue to happen, So I'm very disturbed by this, because this is something that's going on a daily basis now in America.
Yeah. And, another thing too is when it comes to violations of IEPs, you have like failure to provide services, inadequate or inappropriate placements. You have like lack of IEP meetings. I think discrimination or exclusion's one of them. And then, obviously the failure to address like the goals and objectives, which is what we're talking about today. But my son has mentioned many times that he doesn't like the screaming, and yet he's still in that classroom, so it honestly falls under an inappropriate placement in the school. That's another violation.
It is.
They had other options for him. They even
could have moved him out.
Them.
It could have moved him out of the classroom to a classroom where the kids they might scream, but not as often or whatever. That's something they could have did.
You know how I know this is because the next day they moved him out of the classroom. The next day they moved him out of the classroom.
Out of the area that was triggering his, wow.
I'm like, are you kidding me? They had mentioned to me many times that they were going to do different things with him, and it never was done. Never was done. So they didn't accommodate him.
Yeah. This situation.
And even with the charter school, it's a charter school. So charter schools are a little different. They don't fall under the the school board, but they have their own board, but they still have to follow the IEP. They still have to. You know, and it's just terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah,
They think that they can handle things on their own and do these things, and this is why charter schools get into the trouble that they do, because they kind of try to step away from the school board. But if you put them in a regular public school, then if they don't, I mean, they really have to follow it, because the school board is all over them. But charter schools are a little different, but they still have to follow the IEP.
I imagine there's a lot of situations where kids are in situations where they are not being progressively improved in the classroom behavior and stuff like that because of things going on, because there isn't qualified people around. How can you begin now to kind of go through the system and begin to pick out all the red flags schools are violating and having situations? I imagine if you find a school where there's all the time about something, that's a red flag right there. You need to,
It really is.
In other words, you red flag them schools, you red flag them institution that is in the business is supposed to be handling kids with autism, but they are not, because they're not qualified. So they are just screwing all the time.
Yeah. And I won't even really get into it, but I mean, this is just schools that have to follow the IEPs. I'll tell you what, the private school sector here in our state is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, because
I've never seen anything like it. Because these children, specifically children on the autism spectrum, they come with a grant, a big grant. They all do. They all come with it's like, I think, $12,000 a school year, and these public or private schools have turned themselves into babysitting services, so they can collect $12,000 per child.
Ooh.
And I've seen it done over and over and over again, where they just get all the nonverbal kids into one little school, the ones that can't advocate for themselves, or your lower functioning ones who cannot advocate for themselves, and they turn it into a babysitting service so they can collect thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. I took the time, probably about 45 minutes prior to the broadcast, to go through on the internet schools dealing with ABA programs in North America. Which have had the opportunity to? I know you've been looking around to maybe find another place for your child. I know she's making progress. He's making progress now, but what are you doing now to continue that progress?
So right now, this happened at the end of the school year. So it was perfect timing for us to transition into summer, to try to make the decision on what we're going to do next. As of now, he's still enrolled in the school. He's in a different classroom. It's called Ingenuity, completely different part of the school, a computer-based program, and the staff on that specific is, they're actually really great. And so that's where he's at for now. But over the summer, he's getting a lot of mental health therapy. We've worked with neurologists now to possibly even try to rule out seizure point. I don't know if we don't know if he's having them. We're waiting on all the testing and stuff. But we went medical with everything to rule out everything for him, because the big thing going on in the school, well, we believe it's behavioral, we believe it's medical. Well, I will make sure that it's not medical, before we come back to school, so nobody can, this is a medical issue for my son, rather than wanting to throw out the fact that you guys have to accommodate him, with the behavior end of things. We haven't, like I said, moved the school. I'm going to pursue all of this while he's there, because we want to see the change while he's in the midst being monitored by us and outside behavior therapist types of things. So we've gotten quite a bit of people involved, at this point. So if we decide, the only route that we would actually be able to take is to move him into a full public school setting. And that would take a lot to do for him because, you know,
it's changing.
He really
is changing total environment.
We have to be careful on the moves that we make, just because when you start moving a child who is, you know, in a specific place, it takes a lot of work to move them. So, and there's a lot of meetings and a lot of, EP meetings and stuff that have to come with a move. So we haven't fully made a decision yet, but we have pursued medical, and he is getting all the therapy he needs over the summer. When he'll be okay. So
you've had years to look around and be involved in it, and I took in about 45 minutes to an hour to search the internet, and that's just external. But one that caught my attention is keyautismservices.com, and I don't know if you know, it has large place outline states and stuff that it covers: Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, Colorado, Texas, Illinois, and other places. But that's just one that came to my attention, so I just bring that up. But you have things that you benefit your child. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Key is they have a lot of facilities all over nation, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Ours does too. Ours is a really big company as well, and they're all over. I think all over North America. It's because we follow, and we've had the same behavior analyst now. I'd say we've had him for 4 or 5 years, and he really has done an amazing job with helping shift behaviors in my son. And like I said, we have come so far for him to happen, for him to backtrack, because he backtracked. He regressed a lot. And so we're trying to get him back to where he needs to be. Even, like I said, he would come home. This is a key point too. He would come home several times, I'd say since January. He'd wake up with a headache and all these types of things, but he never told me what was going on, because later on we found out that this has happened more than once, with him to the ground and her elbow going in neck. This has happened more than once, and he never told me. And the forensic interview asked him specifically. She said, why didn't you tell your parents? And he goes, I don't know. I just didn't want to bother them. I didn't want to burden them with it. Breaks your heart as a parent, because you're like, you should know that you can tell us everything, because you got to really show them, like, we're here to fight for you, because this is all I've been doing for years, is fighting, to make sure that you're getting everything you need. And for him to feel that way just breaks my heart. When I looked back at the data, because he comes, like I said, he comes with data sheets. So when behaviors would spike, I'd noticed that he'd come home with these. And so we were like, okay, it makes sense that during that time that these, whoever it was, and he said it was this specific person, but with her putting her hands on him, he would go into spikes later on. And I'm like, wow, like it all started to line up for us, when I started looking back at everything. And I think I got one incident report from that school, one incident. And it was very minimal. He wasn't hurt or anything like that. But something happened on the plane like that. But he told me that this has happened 2 or 3 times since January. Now that I was able to finally talk to him. And it really breaks my heart for him. It really does. And he's not the only one. There's a lot of nonverbal kids in that school. And if it's happened to any of the other ones, I pray that it doesn't continue. I really do.
Well, I know you are, and your husband are dealing with it and praying and to make sure things happen right. Just from my perspective, as a parent, just making sure you understood him. Okay, son, tell me.
Yep, and that's what we told him. We said, we really have to. You need to tell us everything, and he's usually really good about that. So I was just surprised that he had just kind of been keeping that from us, you know. But and about the same time that this started happening was when we had to get mental health therapy back involved, because he started telling us, I'm just so sad, I'm depressed, like all these things. And the mental health therapist, she kind of gave me the dates of when we, you know, reached out. She said this is about the same time that the data started spiking too. So because we've all looked over it, and yeah, it really shows like he was really trying to reach out, but you know, I guess in his own little way, you know. So he's articulable about it now, though.
I've had the opportunity. One day out at the school, I run a fishery and gardening and aquaponic unit and food and stuff like that. And there's one kid, just one, in that school that comes out with her teacher, and they come in the garden and they harvest and they do different stuff. So I have an opportunity to show him how to harvest collard greens or harvest whatever that's we're growing in the garden. But that's my interaction with a kid with autism.
Yeah, I mean, these kids definitely need, you know, people to be there for them and to advocate for them. You know, and I found I had been asking the school. I said, please just let me bring in my therapist to the school, my behavior therapist, and just you know, just I'd been asking and asking. They said, no, we've got it. You know, we've got everything here. You know, that he needs and those types of things. But now, you know, they don't want the outside eyes in there.
That's the whole thing right there. The whole thing. Yeah, they don't want no one to know exactly what's going on in that particular school. That's what's going on. Now, also, what came across my mind is that we got to pour into our legislature. We got to pour inside Tallahassee. We got to pour inside our congressmen. You know, about the situations and disturbances that with the school systems across this country. You know, especially there in Florida. You know, we got to pour inside it. This broadcast is going nationwide, and we want America to know exactly what's going on, and we need the legislature to get on top of this. This is very, very crucial right now.
And I reached out. It's good that you mentioned that, because I reached out to our local congressman's office and forwarded up to DC. Back. I also sent it. I did a meeting request to his office, and they refused to allow me to talk to him. So this is kind of where we're at. They said, "Well, we'll just forward this over to DCF." DCF never got back, and they want me to send them more information on it. But I've been dealing with DCF in my own investigative world, and you know, there's only so much you can do there. So
I understand. But this is a plan of action. I'm glad that we got you on the radio this morning. Our plan of action as NAB is that we want to get this in front of DOJ and FDLA, because I feel that they have not done a job. They have not followed through with investigations. They have not done follow up as far as the wellness of the child. There's so many loopholes of things that have not been done in this case until it's pathetic, you know. And I believe that everybody needs to be held accountable.
I agree.
And there is nothing that has been said in this hour and 5 minutes interview that cannot be made public. It is absolutely go from my perspective, and I hope from everybody that's involved. Once this is uploaded to the website there at NAB, it is free. Michael, y'all could do whatever you want to with it, and I'm going to put it on all of my platforms, and hopefully we can push it to the point to get in front of somebody that can begin to hold Florida accountable. While he's woke about everything else, he need to be woke about his own system. But anyway,
thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. We ready to wrap up? If there's no more to add.
No, I think I covered everything. You know, I like I said, I'll say one more thing, that DCF really did try their best to get this in front of the state's attorney's office and in front of the department. And, you know, the investigator texted me, and he said that, he said if the state and Martin County aren't going further after their investigation, he said, my hands are tied. He said, we refer to them for investigation and pressing charges. So that tells you that what they found was legitimate enough to go and be criminally investigated, and Martin County shut it down. And they've been known for that. And it really makes me sad that they weren't willing to advocate for my son. So hopefully somebody possibly will step up, maybe one of the state's attorneys here, maybe will help us out or something, but it does need to be investigated with how to talk to people who are autistic and take into account that there was already an internal investigation done in the school, and they have it documented that there was a witness and they did see everything, you know. So
but since the kid was autistic, they said he was a zero. I got you. Oh.
Yeah. And autistic people are credible.
Yeah.
And I want to say autistic people are credible.
Right.
You know, they deserve to have a place just like everybody else does.
And those two people that were left in that classroom, what were did they lie to, or did they tell the truth, or what was their
the para? So the one para is the one that hurt my son. The other one turned her back and said that she didn't see anything. And the administration, when they did their investigation, they said that her story changed 3 or 4 times. And they told me that they said to her,
that's a credibility problem right there.
Yep. They said, well, you're lying. You're trying to cover this up.
She's been doing it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. I appreciate you all taking the time. I want to thank NAB for bringing before the eyesight a lot of things that go on that a lot of people are aware of. They're aware of them, but they don't pay attention to them. And I again thank you for coming on, Ms. Danielle, and talking for your child. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys allowing my son's voice to be heard, really. You know, he deserves it just as much as everybody else does. So.
Okay, Dr. McCorvey, is there anybody else you need to add? Education specialist, Ms. Tammy, you need to add anything?
All right. I want to thank Investigator Danielle Roberts for being on the air with us today. She has brought out something that we need to pay close attention to, and that's when a problem hit home, a problem hit our community, a problem in our schools, we need to bring it to the forefront, you know, and this is not a hidden agenda. This is for everyone to give accountable for their actions, especially in a situation like this. I believe everybody, including the state of Florida, need to be accountable for their actions, and that no, this is not the last time that you will hear from this coming from me, because I am going to talk to the legislature. I am going to talk with NAB to Congress, even if to go as far as talking to the Department of Justice about injustice that's happening. We're going to take a voice and take a stand and get to the heart of the matter as far as the organization is concerned. Brother Freddie, I want to thank you again for bringing this live to us today. We're talking to you now from the National Association of Black Defenders. We're thankful for our brother Freddie Howard, who's also over Howcee Gospel, and for our guest, Danielle and her family. I want to thank you again for being a part of the show, Ms. Tammy McCorvey, who's our advisor for NAB, and also she has a master's in special education, has worked for 29 years with autism. So we're glad to have these professionals on the air with us today. And like Brother Freddie said, this is going out all over the nation. And now hopefully something will be done about this circumstance. Thank you, and thank you again for tuning in to Howcee Gospel Radio Station and the National Association of Black Defenders. You all have a nice day today. Be blessed, everyone.
All right. Thank you all for listening today.
Yep, thank you.
This will be up in the media's source in probably about less than an hour. Thank you all. God bless you. Take care now.